Hello, Pablo. Did you make up your mind? Woo! Hope y'all had a good weekend, everybody. Whoa, what a weekend's been for this guy. Woke up at 4:45 on Saturday to take one of my kids to cross country. I didn't have to run, thankfully, and then I was out there today quite a bit, just clean out my yard, trying to get my like it's not trying to get my garden area organized for next year. Um, Raspberry bushes are kicking ass. There we go. But they're in the wrong place, man. Hey, what's up, everybody? All right, Robert, I got your email. Sounds like you're good to go on the Right Capital stuff. Frankly, that happens all the time. People email me on Right Capital, and then 3 hours later, they'll email me back. They'll say they figured it out. So hopefully you. Too many commercials to start the live streams out now. What does that mean? Thanks, Carson. Much obliged, man. Wait till I do my after this. I'm just reusing. Not that one. Maybe I will do this one too. But the tax. Oh, right here, the tax bomb in your retirement account. Hey, James. So I'll do that one next. Just reusing videos from from a couple years ago, but I think it's informative. And when I did these videos, I didn't have the same size of a user base I have now, so it's a win-win. We get more people the information. I get more of that sweet, sweet YouTube money, which has actually been it has fallen off a cliff over the last 3 to 4, probably 6 months or so. We'll see if it always picks back up towards the Christmas time, and then you get an election. So I imagine it'll probably pick back up here, probably later. Yeah, anytime. The election season always starts at Labor Day, and so I'd imagine the commercials on elections will come. I got it's right back. We'll start kicking in here pretty soon, and I might be able to make a little bit more scratch on YouTube. Be that as may, as long as YouTube pays my mortgage, I am happy with that. And so far, so good, man. What commercials? What commercials are on there? Never used to be commercials before I went live. Now I got to sit through two. Yeah, just FYI, I don't have any control over what they put on there, man. Right on. All right, Ken. There you go, Kenny. Right on. So I don't whatever commercials are on there. I don't do anything with it. It's just that they put it on there and they send me that sweet, sweet YouTube money. So keep watching those commercials. Our stock futures way down. Hey, we got Bill in the house, right on. We got Vaughn in the house. All right, cool. Fire calc, yeah, right on. First one shot, cool. So I got a whole lot. I do want to talk. Well, the Dow was down 1,000 points. The S&P was down, I think, 3.3% the other day. I tell you, man. When the markets get crushed is when you start saying, "Oof." I should have sold when I had the money. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not telling you so. I'm not saying anything. I think about this all the time myself. So here's my scenario here's what I think about all the time. I have, we'll say I have $100,000 in investments. I got, 250,000 in the debt. Well, I mean, literally, I'm just using this for a sample. What do I have? That won't be right. I have basically my mortgage. It's not quite one for one, so I'm not quite here. I just want to use this for an example, though. My investments are 100,000. My debt is 250, so it'd be a 2-to-1 leverage if that makes sense. But it's not. I don't know. It's not that bad. It's no, it's not 2-to-1. It's probably 1.5-to-1. Anyway, the point being is this 100,000. So the idea would be, you sell. Let me back up for a second because I get this question all the time. If I had right now, let's just say I had 300,000 in investments and 200,000 in mortgage. All right, so I got investments, mortgage, and this is my only debt, my mortgage. If I had that right now and I sold, and we'll just say I took 25% plus a 10% penalty, so I'd lose 35% of my money. I don't have my. I don't know where my calculator is. Okay. Financial planner without a calculator is like a doctor without prescribing pharmaceuticals, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to get my trusty calculator here. And I say, so we got 300,000 times, minus 35%. I would be, yeah, right there. I would lose 105,000 in taxes. So I would be down to 195 after taxes and 10% penalty. I'd have 195,000 left over. I'd pay that mortgage off in 2 seconds flat. I'd be done with it. Absolutely. But Josh, don't care. I'd be done with it. I don't have that though. All right. So I got 1 I got $150,000 mortgage and $100,000 investments. That's what I have right now. All right. So I don't have I'm just using that for an example. 1.5 debt to equity, if that makes sense. Or $1.50 of debt for every dollar of equity I got. Not equity in my home. I got lots of equity in my home. I'm just talking about equity in terms of real equities. So after $100,000 minus 35%, I would still be sitting on 75,000. So I'd still only have 75,000 bucks. In which case, if I were to use that to pay this guy off, I wouldn't be able to knock it out. I still have $75,000 here, but I'd have nothing in investments. All right. So that is something I contend with all the time. Is like, after all that, you're still sitting on a debt here, and you have no cash. That doesn't make me very happy, if that makes sense. But the way I'm going, because YouTube is paying my mortgage and I try to pay more. I'm hoping by in a year or two I'll be able to change that out. You know what I'm saying? So I'm hoping by a year or two I'll basically be one for one, and I'll just sell everything and pay the debt and be done with it. And that will free up cash flow. It'll free up less income I need, which means less taxes I pay, and it make me sleep better at night, 100%. And you can say, "Oh, but you're cash poor." Well, hopefully, I won't be cash poor for long. Hopefully, the money I was making off YouTube, I can start piling away into literally good old fashioned cash, if that makes sense. When I mean cash investments like VTI and whatnot. The issue that I contend with is that I don't look, man. I don't know what the market does in the future. I have no clue. You have no one has any idea. I have it's easy to get negative because negativity is I think we're trained to be negative, but yeah, I don't expect the market. Who knows, man? I don't expect it to give us the last 40 years of rates of return. I don't expect it necessarily to go to Japan either. I think America is the only game in town. But I mean, whatever. We could be wrong. And when the markets fall 3.5% in a day, you're like, damn, dude, that's that's a couple mortgage payments I just lost by the markets getting declined, if that makes sense. Um, I don't think I'll take Social Security early, Quincy. And the reason for that is quite simple: is I got a younger wife. You know what I'm saying? My wife is 4 years younger than me, and she stayed home to raise the crumb crunchers. So the earlier I take it, the less I leave her, assuming I die first. You know what I'm saying? Which might not happen. And both her parents died. Her dad died young. Her mom died 68. And but now they did have 9 kids, so that probably drove them to the grave. But anyway, the sooner I take it, the less I leave Charlotte, and I don't want to, I don't want to do that to her because she doesn't have that big of a benefit on her own. She'll get my benefit regardless. So if I take it early, she'll get my benefit, which will have been reduced. I don't want that. You see what I'm saying? So my plan is when I hit 62, yeah, I don't think we'll be here. The house is way too big for all of us. So we'll sell the house, downsize, and hopefully just live off the cash and allow Social Security to kick in when I'm 67 or 70. But we'll see, man. I don't know. I mean, what's the likelihood of me even living until 70? There's a decent chance, but you don't know. I mean, no one knows. Many people die before they hit 70. You know what I'm saying? And I think all these people are like, oh, if I don't take Social Security and I die too soon, I'm really gonna be mad. I'm like, dude, you're dead. You don't. I mean, I hate to say it, but you're dead, man. I don't get that. The government's got over on me, so I'm gonna take Social Security early because I'll be dead. I'm like, yeah, exactly. You're dead. That is an argument I don't like. Like, oh man, it pissed me off. I didn't take Social Security, and I got a disease where I died a couple months later. I was like, okay, I don't get that at all. Now, if you're single, okay, I mean, I don't understand this whole thing. Is if you die too early, you're gonna be mad. Social Security is a bad deal. Well, so okay, dying too early is kind of a bad deal. That's weird to me. Now, again, if you're single, there's all kinds of different ways to skin this cat. But for me, as with a young wife, I want to take it later so I can leave my spouse the most she can possibly get. Now, if she were to die, before me. Would I take early? Maybe. It just depends on the situation as it stands. But my goal right now is not to take it till I'm at least 67. But we'll see, man. We don't know what the future holds. I mean, that's the thing. We just don't know. I had no idea. And I'm putting a lot of effort into this home. The nice thing about having a mortgage, no mortgage though, the nice thing is even if you can't get everything out that you put into your home, you have a place to live. You still got to pay property tax and homeowners insurance, but you still have a place to live. This is where I don't think people get the your home is not an investment. What do they say? Your home is not an asset. I find that to be probably the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Or cash is trash. That's another stupid thing. But the point being is you still have a place to live. Food, water, shelter. We know these things. Food, water, shelter, man. Food, water, shelter. So shelter being paid for that you can enjoy without worrying about a freaking banker. I cannot. I don't. I didn't even want to go down this tangent here today because I feel like I talk about it all the time. But if you just read who went bankrupt and had to have foreclosures on, be it 2007, 8, 9 on their homes, or be it the farms of the Midwest back in the older days, is all people who were leveraged. There's no two ways around that. If you have no debt, you can't be foreclosed on. Yes, you don't have to pay your property tax. You have to pay your property tax. I'm not talking about foreclosed on by the county. I'm talking about foreclosed on by the bankers. If you have no debt, they can't foreclose on you. It's just that simple, which means as long as you continue to maintain your property tax, you don't even have to maintain your homeowner's insurance. I don't know why you wouldn't, but you don't have to. As long as you maintain your property tax, you won't be put out. It's just that simple. You have shelter. Now, you might not have food and water, but you got shelter, man. Food, water, shelter. And this whole point for me, I'm like sitting there thinking, all these people look at their home. They don't like in comparative to the markets. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Which is why I did that video, by the way, yesterday. I said why the housing market will continue to boom. So that way people don't start freaking out. Your house is an asset that you live in. It provides you safety from the freaking elements. And maybe I don't know. Maybe it's because I was born in Maine and it freaking froze my. I've shared this story before. And I'll share it a million more times. And I don't even think I shared it. I don't think I did in this book. But one of my biggest fears is the fear of freezing, and the reason is because I remember just going home when I was in elementary school, and I lived in Maine. You know what I'm saying? So it's a winter in Maine. You're going home, and if your mom didn't, or for whatever reason, forgot to pay the oil bill, or just we didn't have the money. I don't know what it would be, but you're always wondering: is it going to be colder inside your house than it was outside the house because there's no heat? And that happened more often than I can remember, that I'd like to remember. But I remember it's like literally you're sitting there like, please let it be warm because you're freezing outside, dude. In wintertime in Maine, believe it or not, it's cold. So you're freezing your tush off. And I'll never forget, we had this big door with a big oval window kind of thing, an oval shaped window. And Doggy was my dog, and he would be waiting on the window like, ready for me. And I'm just like, please let it be cold, let it be warm in there, please. And you walk in, and that you could tell the oil hadn't been paid. There was no heat. It's like, oh, not again. Because it's like you can't function in the freezing cold, man. You can't. It's just so depressing. You're like, you go inside. You're done with school. You're like, I just want to go inside and basically chill. And you're like, there's no heat. And for some reason, it's colder in your house than it is outside. I don't know why. I'm sure some some theorists that can explain why, probably because no sunshine. But anyway, you're like, oh, and that scares the living bejesus out of me, man. And then on top of that, if you have if you're ever like in the army or something like that, and you had to go, as the infantry, so being outside, when it's freaking raining on and cold, dude, it's freaking. I'm telling you, man, it sucks donkey balls. Pardon my French. It's horrible. And you're just sitting there thinking, the elements, you hate it. And then the cold, you hate it. And you're just like, this sucks, dude. It's not fun. I remember it's like literally you walk in your house and dog would be up on you and you can just feel it just like they're like, it's so cold. It's depressing. No other way around that. Then your little brother and sister would come home and you're like, I can't remember. I mean, I don't remember all that. I blacked out a lot of that stuff. I just remember, I don't know where my mom was. I don't remember. But anyway, It's just depressing. No other way around that. Anyway, the point being is your home serves a purpose. The purpose is for you to live in there. We did have a fireplace. Is in the dining room, but when my dad left, I don't think we used it. I can't remember what happened. I can't remember if I just remember I don't recall using it, or maybe I was too young to start. I don't recall. We didn't use it, Mitzi, when my dad was gone, when he left, if that makes sense. And I don't know if we couldn't, if there's something, I just don't recall. But I just remember it wasn't an alternative back then. I actually do talk about the fireplace but when my dad was still there in my book a little bit. I mean, again, this book is fiction. It's based somewhat on my story, but it's fiction. But I do remember, the fireplace when I was really young, and that'd be the only source of heat in the dining room area. If your bedroom was upstairs, awful hard to get heat up there, if that makes sense. But I just this yeah, that sucks, man. Anyway, the point being is when your house is paid off, the only thing you have to worry about is the county. That's it, and you just pay your property tax. It's not that big of a deal. I don't get why people don't get this. So for me, I'm just like, man, going back to what I was saying, if I had the ability for one after taxes and fees, I'd pay the sucker off in 2 seconds flat. Should you do that? I have no clue. Are you going to miss out on potential gains? Yes, obviously. You're going to miss out on potential gains. But I'm just telling you, man, here's my second point of this. And I'm not trying to say, because I get people all the time, well, Josh, you said, I just think out loud, my friends. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just know for me, I would rather have it done and paid for, even if I had no cash on the side. You know what I'm saying? So I do know for a fact we've had significant run from 1982 to 1999. We had significant run. All right. From 2000 to 2009, we were flat. And then we've had significant run again for the last 13 years. So basically, 3 of the last 4 decades, we've averaged over 15% a year. 3 of the last, I wish I had my calculator. So we averaged basically nothing in the aughts, but we averaged 15, 15, 15. So I think even the 1980s was like 18, whatever it is. So if we take, what's that, 15, 15, 15, 45 divided by 4, we've averaged 12% a year since basically 1982, if that makes sense. That's just basic math. That doesn't mean that's the exact number. I'm just using 15, 15, 0, 15, divide that by 4 decades. So for the last 4 decades, we've averaged 12% a year. And if our rule is 72, 12 divided into 72 is what, 6? That means our money's doubled every 6 years. Yeah, that's pretty phenomenal, man. That's unlike anything that's ever happened in history. Anything. There's never been as much wealth creation as that in history. None. And it's not going to happen again. It's not. That's a radical change. And those days are gone. Now, I absolutely could be wrong. What I'm saying. But if I'm right, and you're sitting on a pile of debt, and you're watching your portfolio just fall and fall and fall, another 1,000 points, another 1,000 points, another 1,000 points, dude, it sucks, man. It sucks because you're sitting there thinking, I should have sold. I'm just telling you, man. And just remember, if the market goes from, all right, so let's draw this. So let's say if $100 stock, it drops to 50. All right, so your stock is down 50%, right? So we have $100, it drops to 50. So 50% decline. What does it have to do? How much does it have to go to get back to even? So we're now at $50. What's the percentage it has to do to go back to even? Let's see. And again, I'm a 15-second delay. So it went from 100 to 50. That's a 50% decline. So now we're at 50. Just to break even, how much does it have to do? What's the percentage it has to do to break even? See who's got it there. 100%. Right on, Bill. Right on, David. Right on, retired and loving it. Right on, 100%. And that's the losses are harder than the gains, or you could look at the opposite. The gains are harder than the losses. I'd say, look, if the drops, you need more on the upside to just get back to where you were, if that makes sense. And then so is another thing too. If you got to pull money out when the markets are down at 50%, which is why I talk about the barbell. We don't want you to have to do that. Yeah, someone. It's funny. I just read about 3M. You all hear about 3M going bankrupt? So someone made a point of this the other day. He said he'd been buying some stocks on the cheap, and I can't remember when. I said, really? So you had all this cash on the side? You know what I'm saying? I mean, his implication was that he'd been, he was able to buy all these cheap, high-paying dividend stocks and some pretty good companies. Like, I forgot what they were, but I remember I just can't remember. I said, yeah, that's pretty good. Good on him. I said, but either that meant you had a bunch of cash on the side, which meant you missed the last 13 years of it, one of the biggest runs we've ever seen, or that you were magically able to get out of the market pre-pandemic and then you were able to get back in April, which anyone who says that, is full of crap. So anyway, the point being was, it's like, yeah, I mean, okay, you can buy those high dividend stocks now. Back then, that's great, but how? I mean, you loaded up on them, but don't forget Bethlehem Steel, General Electric, AT&T. They all cut their dividend. I think Verizon maybe. What 3M is going bankrupt. I mean, what the hell? I got no qualm with that. I just find it interesting. People say these high quality dividend stocks are always going to be there forever. I said, no, we don't know that to be true. I'm not being a negative Nelly. I find all this inadequate. This guy, Thomas, I don't know if he's on here or not. Thomas P. He goes, Josh, don't pay off your mortgage. It's basic math and history. I was like, what? It's basic math, man. I was like, what's basic math? That the markets, they'll outperform your mortgage debt. I said, that's basic math, that the markets will do something? Let me guess. The theory of special relativity is proven too, right? There, Thomas P. Einstein, the edifice around Einstein is crackling as we see here. 50 years from now, predicting, we're all going to look back and say, why were we so enthralled with Einstein? You watch, man. You watch. You heard it here first. Well, not really first, but you heard it here first. Special relativity, GPSs, man. GPS, really? Okay, interesting. Anyway, the point being is Thomas, and this is where people, I think, they look, it's called recency bias. Recency is just your history of being invested in the markets, and your history is no more than basic 1980s. No more than 1980s, if even that. And then you say, yeah, but look at 1926, man. You're like, yeah, okay. So you take that is also recency bias as well. And then you're looking at your bias relative to your home bias. You're basically looking at the United States markets. And I'm not saying buy international. I don't touch anything international, man. So you're going to say, let me buy recency bias. Look at the last 50 years, man. Mathematics. That doesn't prove anything at all. And then you're going to say, but look at America. I was like, that doesn't prove anything at all either, man. Again, this is why my take on America is I'm still optimistic because we're the best game standing. But just remember, a 50% decline means a 100% increase just to get back to even. 100%. GM, Sears, Chrysler all went bankrupt. All played 100%. The history of this is legend. In terms of all these companies that have, and I'm not saying these can't continue. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to be negative, Nelly. I'm just, for me, it's going back to paying off my mortgage with a satisfaction, knowing I'm starting from scratch with no money, but I got a house paid for. That makes me feel pretty damn good, man. Versus I don't have a house paid for. I'm still owing the bankers over there. And on top of that, my value of my portfolio is fluctuating like a crazy man. When the markets go down, I'm like, damn. Anyway, so that's just my perspective. This might not be the channel for the high rollers who want to freaking say, man, I'm just not gonna lie to you, man. I've always been conservative on this stuff. The home is your castle. Protect your home with all you can, and the way you protect your home is have no debt on it. I'm just telling you, man. Look, I've only been a financial planner since 1998. I've only seen thousands of different clients. And I'm telling you, the one thing that of all things Having a house paid off is the one thing that makes people sleep at night. That does not mean if you're freaking having a mortgage, you're an idiot or anything like that. It doesn't mean that at all. Do not put words into my mouth. It doesn't mean you should pay off your house. I'm just telling you. I've talked to thousands of people, and having no debt makes a secure retirement easier than having debt. That is a fact. Doesn't mean people who don't have debt aren't scrambling. Doesn't mean that people who do have debt aren't living high in the hog. It just means the vast majority of my people I've worked with having no debt equals a secure retirement. And be able to go night nights like Pablo, if that makes sense. All right. Always, 100% Denise. Always protect the nest. 100%. Again, that does not mean you, my friends, who's ever watching this 20 years from now, do it right now. I'm just saying if you, yes, 100%, Marie. So Marie, good job. So Marie did the caps so I can know she's directing this to me. So if you have a comment or a question for me specifically, do in all caps, please. But yes, 100% Marie. So let's just say I pay $3,000 a month on my mortgage. All right. Let's just say I do that. Now I roughly right about that. I put an extra $1,000 a month on principal because I get about 4,000 a month on YouTube. Actually, lately it's about 3,600. A couple of months back there, January of last year, I made $9,000 on YouTube. Isn't that crazy? Crazy. Now I don't do any sponsorships or anything like that. So I know, like, you could. I have no desire to do any sponsorships. None of that crap. In fact, I hate it. I was watching a guy the other day. Paul Joseph Watson. I was like, oh, not you too, man. Like he was doing sponsorship on something. I was like, oh, it's embarrassing. And like I love Paul Joseph Watson. I just like, oh, I get it. People got to make money, and who knows? Maybe I'll do it at some point. I hope I don't. But man, I've known, and Paul Joseph Watson has been, he's been around for a long time. So anyway, the point being is I have no. The point being, there's people make a hell of a lot more money than me on YouTube, and there's people make a hell of a lot less money than me on YouTube. If I can make the mortgage payment, that's literally what I get from YouTube goes to my mortgage. That's it. So a couple months back then, and I made $9,000 in 2 months back in, I want to say December and January of this year, 2021 and 2022. That all went to my mortgage. Now it's about a third of that, a little bit more than a third of that. That's all going to my mortgage. It pays it. I am freaking grateful. And let me just praise the Lord. Thank you, Lord. Oh, Heavenly Father. Oh, may we always have gratitude for the blessings you've bestowed on us. We are all blessed because you sent your son Jesus to die for each and every one of us. Every single person here is blessed. Every single person, regardless of his lot in life financially, regardless of where he wakes up in the day. We are all blessed because you sent your son for some reason to suffer horrific death being hung on a tree against all preconceived notions of the Old Testament. He was hung on a tree in a horrible, disgusting pain where the people, his apostles, turned on him as he predicted and as he told them. And they even denied him when they saw him. They say, I have to touch. And yet you still, oh, bless us with your grace. May we always just show great gratitude. Always show gratitude for what you've bestowed on us. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. So I just want to be clear. I am not in any way griping. No, sir. The idea I can sit here without shaving in my freaking t-shirt and make $3,000 to pay off my mortgage. You crazy? It's nuts. Nuts. Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, I do that. I just said I do that. Oh, so anyway, so Marie, so let's just say I have the extra $3,000 a month going into my once my mortgage is paid off, I'll just put that in DTI 100%. Absolutely. Because I don't think the capital, look, I just want to be clear. The capital markets, I don't think are going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that we're going to wake up one day and it's apocalyptic thing where it's just all freaking, commie stuff. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's going to happen at least. And I'm going to share with you a couple articles even more along those lines. If there's anything we've learned in America, which is why we've gone more fascistic as opposed to socialistic, is that we know private companies are more efficient. That's just a fact. And private companies are more efficient at also getting the people in charge rich. Just this isn't debatable. Now we know if you're Castro, or if you're Chavez, or if you're Khrushchev, or if you're Mugabe, you all these guys got wealthy beyond, I mean, billions of dollars because they were the commie generals. Commie leaders. We all know this. If you're a commie, you will get rich, but very other few people will, other than your inner circles, the Politburo, whatnot. But that's not. We got such a big ruling class nowadays that they're not going to stay saying silently and say, yeah, it's okay if Joe Biden gets rich while we're all sitting here digging ditches. So the way to make everybody rich, in terms of the ruling class, is this fascistic, where we're living in, where Scott Gottlieb goes to be a director for big pharma. I mean, this is, the interchange, but who knows what the hell Francis Collins, how much money he got off his corruption, Fauci. I mean, it's all these big corporations financing big government. It's fascism 101, man. It doesn't mean it has to be jackbooted thugs, but Mussolini says you can make the trains run on time. He did it without having the government take ownership of production, i.e. socialism. And the same thing's happening here, man. I mean, freaking Biden doesn't want the U.S. government to get involved in manufacturing vaccines. He wants big companies to do it and then pay him 10% for the big guy. And look, Republicans are just as guilty. I mean, how did Lynn Cheney, she went from, $4 million net worth, and when she started in Congress, and now it's like freaking 80, I don't even know what it is. Like, it's in the 20 million or something like that, some kind of insane net worth. So her net worth went up by, factor 5, 6, something like that. It's Lynn Cheney. Like the same thing with all these guys, dude. It has nothing to do with conservatism versus liberalism. It's all the same thing. The guys go into office to get rich, and of course the Democrats want to have power as well, which is why the Democrats are worse than the Republicans, because Republicans just want to go in there and get rich. They don't really want to tell you how to live your life. In fact, the Republicans we don't care. They just don't care. The Democrats want to get rich, and a lot of the Democrats are already rich. That's why you look at the history of liberalism, it's all run by rich kids. But so they already got the money, but the power is what they want with it. You know what I'm saying? Because that gives them the respect that they're seeking. They're like, oh, no one respects me. Republicans I don't care if you respect me. I just want to get rich, dude. And the Democrats I want to get respected because I'm the smartest guy in town. My name is Fauci. Fauci can't even tie your shoes, but whatever. You're the richest guy in D.C. Fauci's pension is $355,000 a year. Fauci. But he could have got so much more wealthier. I hear this all the time. He could have got so much more wealthier in the private market. Wealthier than a $355,000 a year pension on top of all the other corruption that guy's got. It's freaking sick. It's sickening. Anyway, point being is so the capital markets are based on this code, which is the fascism we're in the United States, and that's going to continue on. And as such, there'll always be companies that pay a dividend, always be companies with stocks, and I say always in our lifetimes. And these stocks will continue to turn profits. They'll continue to hire people. I was at Costco today. I don't know if Costco pays a dividend. I imagine they probably do. They'll continue to do these things. There'll always be this kind of stock market where you have an access to buy shares in a publicly traded company. In fact, if anything, with the SEC being more and more stringent and whatnot, the number of companies being public are shrinking. One of the reasons, I've done videos on this before too, the number of publicly traded companies, I'm not talking about the pink sheets, I'm not talking about penny stocks, not talking about OTC market, I'm just talking about the general American Stock Exchange, New York Stock Exchange, Chicago, Philadelphia, the generally traded things, NASDAQ. These companies, the number of publicly traded regular companies are shrinking. And what does that do? Well, if the supply shrinks and the demand grows, the prices go up. Supply is shrinking. Demand is growing. The prices go up. And that's what's happening almost by default. I don't think that's going to go away. So I'm not sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, market's going to zero. That's just freaking stupid, man. I mean, it just is dumb. I mean, anything could happen. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but so if I had my mortgage paid off, just a long-winded answer to Marie, yeah, absolutely. I'm investing all in DTI 100%. All right, let's see. Yeah, right here, man. Look at this guy. Stable value fund, 120 savings, adding 50 per year, no debt, right? It's 100%, dude. Yeah, I mean, literally, yeah, that's where it's at right there. He's adding 50 a year per year, no debt, because that's probably equivalent to the debt he had. In fact, oh man, I don't have it here, but oh man, nah, I was going to show you that I'm right when I'm working my book. I'm using. I don't know if I have it up here. Do I? Maybe not. Yeah, I don't. So I'm working on comparing age groups, 45, 54, 54 to 64, 55 to 64, and whatnot. And you just see the level of decline of expenditures as people age because they pay off their debts. They don't have transportation costs. They don't have apparel costs. The only thing that goes up is healthcare. That's it, man. And people say, "Oh, well, because they don't have any money." No, it's because they paid off their debts. I mean, it's just you can see it, man. It actually, in the Consumer Expenditure Survey, it says interest on vehicles, interest on house. Remember, they're only talking interest, which is weird. They don't talk principal. They just talk interest. So they're saying, what's your interest on your house? What's your interest on your vehicle? So under the Consumer Expenditure Survey, they're not even using paying back a principal because they consider that an investment. Anyway, point being is you can see there's just a decline from 45 to 54 to basically 65 and above, how much interest they're paying. And of course, with interest being paid off means equity is being paid down. It's still a cost, even if you're paying it to yourself. It's still a cost you have to pay. So equity is being built up in your home. And it's not just you can see why they don't spend as much because they pay off all their debts. It's just literally that simple. All right. Yeah, cash is trash. Send it to me. If anyone who thinks cash is trash, send me your trash. Even big firms like Fidelity are projecting 5% for stocks per year. Oh yeah, I don't. I think 6.5. I think 6.5. So how do we project stocks? We look at earnings growth as literally the John Bogle model. Quite easy. I don't know why Fidelity. Why are they projecting 5%? So anytime I hear that, I say why, and I use it's the John Bogle model, which is tried and true. Earnings growth year over year plus dividend yield equals return on investment. So earnings growth year over year plus dividend yield. Right now we have a dividend yield of about 2. We'll just say for simplicity. So that means all we need is earnings growth of 4.5% a year. 6.5. Literally nothing more than that. So if Fidelity is projecting 5%, that would mean they're only expecting a 3% earnings growth year over year for the next, what Jill say, next decade. I'd wonder why they're only, 3% earnings growth year over year. I'd like to know what's their quantification for that, frankly. Because the dividend yields, you could argue that the dividend yields are dropping or going. You can make those arguments all day long. That's pure speculation. And a 2% dividend yield doesn't seem that dramatic to me in terms of, it's going to be lower than that. I don't believe that for 2 seconds flat. In fact, if the stock market declines, the actual dividend yields go up. So as long as they don't cut their dividends, and I don't expect, like I said, I think I'm still 100% a capital market fan. I literally am. This is a capitalism. It's capital markets. I believe in it. Capital markets have done more to secure successful retirements than anything else in history. People talk about the pension stuff, it freaking pisses me off. I'm arguing with this guy on Matt Stoller's Substack. I'm like, dude, you're freaking ass clown. I didn't say that to him because trying to be not being negative, but I'm like, dude, the idea that we had successful retirements more so than we have now when we have pensions is so freaking stupid. It's mind-boggling. Never mind because of big corporate pensions. A lot of them were the whole reason we had ERISA because the big corporations did not manage the pensions the way they had promised. They had no obligation to. Now, you can argue at the companies all day long. They should have been jailed. I don't care. The facts are the facts. The pensions weren't all they were cracked up to be. A lot of people didn't get pensions who were promised. And it's still the majority of people never even had access to pensions to begin with. And you still had to work a significant amount of time as crap little job to get a pension. No. I don't want to work your stupid company for 20 to 30 years just to get some freaking pension money. No, that's not free. No. That's indentured servitude. I don't want that. But Josh, don't you know what they're saying at Boston College? Yeah, because they're freaking idiots. Pardon my French. It's idiotic to say, I'm trying not to be so hostile, but I don't care. It's idiotic to say that the retirement back then was better than it is now. It's mind-bogglingly stupid. And I just get so sick of it. Oh my goodness. Don't you know the Chinese are gonna come? That is crazy. All right. Oh, 100%. So this guy says, if you're really close to retirement, scared about the market, would it be wise? I can't answer that. My man says, would it be wise to pull it out, and where would you put it? No answers from me on that. So think about from my perspective. Would it be wise to pull it out? I say, let's just say I say yes, and the market goes zhoops. Let's say I say no, the market goes zhoops. Who's holding the wet bag? This guy. Now, I'm not a rookie at this stuff. Where would I put it? Let's just say it would be wise to put it out. Pull it out. I'd put it over here. Mark goes, zhoops. And let's say I sold you, I don't know, something, and it went down. Zhoops. Yeah. No, I'm not telling anyone what to do here. That's crazy. You got to do it, man. Father-in-law took Social Security early, and he's now 898, but he's still with us, but lost a lot of. Yeah, but I mean, for every one of these, we have three the other way that they died too soon. I mean, it's just you just don't know, man. Why not put every? Oh, I think I already answered that. Yes, I'm a huge fan of lifetime annuities, income annuities. SPIAs, single premium, immediate or income annuities. Yes, sir. I don't know what your situation is. I have no idea if you should do it. Not a recommendation. I am 100% think they're attractive. Absolutely. Oh yeah, 100% still buying VTI. Absolutely. I'm still putting money in the market, man. Hell, I'm only 52 years old. You know what I'm saying? So I'm using my excess money from YouTube, putting it in my mortgage, and I'm paying $2,000 a month into my 2,000 bucks every 2 weeks into my VTI, just like that other guy was saying, $50,000 a year. Now, once that accumulates a certain amount, I consider pulling it out and paying off my mortgage, but it's not there yet. You know what I'm saying? So it's not. Now, I will tell you, I paid a hell of a lot down on equity. I mean, literally, it's nuts how much principal I paid over the last 18 months. It's insane. I mean, literally, it's nuts. It's fantastic. If I had 1 to 2 more, if I had 2 more years, like how much, like I did these last eight, if I had another 18 months, like these last 18 months, I'd be paid for. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing that right now, but still, it's within spitting distance. By 2 years from now, that'll be pretty doggone close to having no mortgage. And even the markets fell 50%. That sucked. But man, as long as I get some income coming in, I can still pay that mortgage, still pay that mortgage. I'm paying more against my principal each and every month. And literally, it's not as on the same clip as it was, a year up until basically February of this past year, because things have slowed down because of recession and everything. But I'm still putting a lot of money into there. Now, what I'm doing is I put $2,000 every 2 weeks into VTI. That accumulates a certain amount of money. I'll sell that sucker and pay off my mortgage. And again, pay down my mortgage, not paid off, but pay down. I'm actually talking about my IRAs, my Roth IRAs, where I was really talking about. My VTI is like my emergency account. So I have this other side account that I'm just funneling money into. And when the money's needed, I sell that sucker and pay it off, whatever. When the money's not needed, just let it grow. If it falls, it doesn't matter because I'm buying shares dollar cost averaging. But I'm talking about my big accounts that have just kind of sat there, for years and years and years in pre-tax money. Now, most of that now is in a Roth, so there'll be less income tax to pay because I've already paid the tax, and there'll really only be a 10% penalty because I'm under the age of 59 and a half. So for me, the income tax is pretty much prepaid on the Roth. I did a Roth conversion this year, not a very big amount. I think it was like 25,000 bucks. So I've yet to pay. I mean, I've already paid the tax, but still, I don't want to do that again. So the issue for me is once they are in the Roth, now you're only worried about tax on any gains, and I got no gains because the mark hasn't done anything since I did my Roth conversions. But because I've already paid the income tax, now I just got to pay the penalty for pulling it out before I'm 59 and a half. That's 10%. That's absolutely, if I can make it through and just sell my Roth and pay off everything and pay a 10% penalty, I'll 100% do that. 100%. I don't care. Even if I got to pay income tax on the gains I've made since when I did the Roth conversions, I'll do that 2 seconds flat. But again, I'm not there. I don't want to do it have no money, and on top of that, still have a mortgage. That's the worst case scenario. So now I'm cash poor with a mortgage. Yeah, my mortgage will be paid down quite a bit, but still there, man. Still there. Yeah, dude. Look at this. Look at this guy, Vern. Vern. No mortgage, no debt at 56. Right, 100%, man. I mean, well, he's got 3,600 a month of pension. How dare he? How dare he, man? Well, obviously, you didn't earn that, Vern. Obviously. Yeah, I'm stunned. People that don't get recency bias because the stock market is this is what my man's saying. I completely concur. Has gone up and to be and to the right doesn't mean it'll continue to do so. I cannot agree more. Could not agree more. We got this guy. It looks like my back is going to cause retirement for 63. Right capital's 89% success rate. Yeah, and don't forget, guys, my right capital is I'm using a 5.5% inflation every year on healthcare, which is one of the bigger, if not the biggest, well, not the biggest, but one of the biggest expenses most retirees have. Basically, a 3 to 3.5% all-in inflation, depending on what you use for your housing cost going up in terms of property tax, all that. Let's just say a 3 to 3.5% total all-in inflation rate. And with a moderate portfolio, 60/40, I think I'm only giving you 4.5% as an average rate of return with a standard deviation of like 11. I mean, if you're using the right capital, I'm coming at you pretty hard in a negative way, a cautiously pessimistic way. So if you got 89%, well, I hate to say you're fine. All right, 100%, dude. That's a big problem. 100%. Anyone know if we get a picture of the person we are paying off, but it comes from Twitter? Get it. Yeah, I haven't read the. Okay, I thought you said I read the Financial Samurai. I did a video on it a couple years ago. It was annoying to me. It was very pessimistic. It wasn't based. I don't. I'm going to go on a limb and say he's never actually been a financial planner. I was actually quite his take on retire. What was it? He was San Francisco at $1 million. I can't remember what it was. His take on his ability or somebody's ability to retire. It was just bad. I was like, dude, and I did a video on this probably 4 years ago, 3 years ago. It was embarrassingly bad. And I was like, I don't know who this dude is. I got no qualm. I don't know. I don't read his stuff. When I read people who I can't read people who just spew the narrative. In the narrative of an 80% retirement replacement ratio or 4% success, 4% safe withdrawal rate, or you need a certain amount of money with linear expenses. It's so boring. It's so boring. I'm like, has anyone ever just thought of seeing if there's a different way to look at this? And I read that and someone had emailed to me. I was like, oh, and I don't know those guys. You know what I'm saying? But it's so. And I don't know if he's still writing that or she. I don't know who the hell it is. I just don't care. I mean, it's kind of like the people when it came to the jabs, when they say, oh, the COVID jab has to work because of, put your jab in there. Smallpox, all right, whatever. Polio. Now I challenge the polio, but be it as it may. So because this worked, I challenge that, but just let's say because this worked, that has to work. It's idiotic, man. It's idiotic to say this, man. And then the same people say, oh, so you want people in an iron lung. I'm like, oh my goodness. We're not dealing with it. And I've actually come to the conclusion, I'm starting to recognize again that, there are a lot of people who just want this stuff. They're okay with it. They just want it. They don't want to think. They just want to be told. They want to be babied. There's no other way around that. And it's very frustrating when you're like, how. And I just realized, people have a right to do what they want to do, man. They want to put crap in their body because they believe the science. If they want to freaking think, I don't. If they want to keep working because they're worried about the 4% rules, now the 2.6% rule, and all that. There's nothing. I mean, all you can do is go out and say the truth, and hopefully people will hear you. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people like to be victims. You see what I'm saying? Like, they want to be a victim. There is something very, I find this even in right wing circles too, because I get a lot of right wing, and I thought I'd cancel them, but they're coming after me. They want to ban me. This, that, and the other. And I'm like, really? Yeah, okay. I don't know. And I get sick of it, man. It's like, okay, they want to ban you, and yet you're still firing away on YouTube with millions of subscribers. And I don't know. It's something that wants to be, it's the victim mentality stuff. And I don't know. I'm getting sick of it, frankly. I just starting to come to the conclusion that there are some people, if not the majority of people, who just want to be told what to do, and they don't want to think. They just want to watch football and drink beers. And what are you going to do, man? You can't change. You can't fix stupid. People want to be stupid, But some people, all it takes is a few. Remember, Jesus only had 12 apostles, and that changed the world. It's funny too, because some guy, Charlie, he's been on this channel, commenting a lot. Big Lib. He doesn't believe Jesus existed. Yeah, that's cool. You got a right to believe Jesus existed, but he thinks I'm the conspiracy theorist. Like, wait. If I'm the conspiracy theorist, because I don't think we went to the moon, I just don't believe it. So that makes me a conspiracy theorist. But this guy does, because science. And I said, okay, but if you don't believe Jesus existed, who's the real conspiracy theorist? Me or you? Because the greatest conspiracy ever would have to be Jesus was never alive. Yet I kind of chuckle at that. You know what I'm saying? I did find it funny that NASA's getting ready to send tomorrow. Remember, because I did a poll, why we haven't gone back to the moon. And more than half the people say because there's nothing of value there. And I said, okay, so NASA's getting ready to send a rocket to the moon tomorrow. It's supposed to circle around the moon. And okay, but anyway, there's no one's going to be on it. But all these people said there's no value to going to the moon. Then why are we sending a rocket to circle the moon? The whole thing's stupid. But whatever, man. It's all good. You don't have to believe. You can believe what you want. I still would wonder if he had sent people on there, never said a monkey, but we're going to put human beings. JFK was worried about the Van Allen radiation belt, but somehow that wasn't a concern for the astronauts who went. But now NASA's again concerned about the Van Allen radiation belt. And once again, they're saying that we don't know how to get through the Van Allen radiation belt to put a man back on the moon. But they were able to do that before, yet the astronauts weren't even sure if they went through the Van Allen radiation belt. Kind of weird. And then the defenders of the status quo say, well, they went through it, but they navigated a way to make it minimal. And you're like, really? Because some of the astronauts did not even say if they had any experience with it at all, if that was even part of the whole process. Don't go down the rabbit hole, my friends. I mean, it's fun to go down, but once you go down the moon landing rabbit hole, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, that doesn't work. It's actually fun. It's fun, man. It's fun to be a contrarian. And then you're going to start saying, oh, special relativity it's actually... Oh, Einstein. Okay. Oh, man. It's fun. I enjoy. Oh, speaking of which, let's go into this right here. Because this is a rabbit hole. Because then you realize, you start picking up where the lies are. And it's okay. And you say, hey, man, there's been lies for history. It's always going to be like that. It's never going to change. And it's just fun to go along with it and say, all right, just live your life as best you can. Because there's nothing you do, man. You're not going to change. Look, if people are willing, still, we had my oh my goodness, Charlotte shared a video with these guys. Poor guy, business owner in Seattle. I think he's got a gym. There's all these drug addicts outside his gym. He's always banging on the door. Get out of here. It's right in downtown Seattle. all these people like just shooting up and mething and selling. It's an open market for drug paraphernalia. And he's like, dude, I'm trying to run a business here. And of course, the mayor doesn't care. His city councilman doesn't care. And I said, and I just said to myself, sucks for you. My wife said, did you notice anything that's funny about someone walking by? I hadn't seen that. She goes, the irony of it all was there was a lady walking by with a mask on. And I said, oh, just like, I said, look, you can't fix stupid, man. You just can't. And you can get frustrated, but don't. It's just not worth it. And this is why the Mormons are so successful. They smile and dial, man. They're like, hey, life's good over here. I'm not a Mormon, but at this stage, given what I've learned now about the history of the United States, maybe Jesus did come to North America. Who knows, man? Maybe Joseph Smith or whatever his name is, Joseph Smith is right. Who knows? I don't think so, but who am I to say anymore? Given the history that we've been that's been shared with us, that's completely silly. All right, so I want to share this with you because one thing I am is not even. Oh, 1 second, right here. This is nuts. All right, so right here, U.S. Northeast winter energy rationing. Biden urges export cuts, increase production of solar and wind, of course, right? Solar and wind is going to save us because remember, Biden said, I tell you, we're going to get rid of fossil fuels. I promise you that. But now he's wanting export cuts and increased production. A few months ago, Sniffy Joe urged energy providers to increase exports to Europe. Exports of solar and wind? No, fossil fuels. To support Europe's effort to resist Russia. Now Biden is complaining that U.S. inventories are unusually low and wants providers to focus on rebuilding domestic inventories. Sniffy Joe, emergency measures may be needed if refiners don't act. Energy Department points to below normal Northeast stocks. Oh, my Maine brothers and sisters. You vote for Janet Mills, you vote for these clowns, and this is what you get, man. You're going to get it good and hard this winter. And I got I know as many, no one here has voted for Janet Mills or Snippy Joe. But it sucks that you're living with people who are that dumb to think that they could live off solar and the freaking wind in Maine on a heat pump. It's really you have to be dumb. Literally at this stage, you have to be dumb to think that. Deliberately ignorant. All right, the Biden Sniffy Joe is warning refiners that may take emergency measures to address fuel exports as stockpile of gas and diesel fuel remain near historically low levels in the Northeast. While East Coast gas and diesel inventories are well below normal, exports of U.S. refined products are at an all-time high. The Energy Department wrote in a letter last week to refiners that included Exxon, Valero, and Phillips. It is our hope that companies will proactively address this need. Remember, Jennifer Granholm said, I was driving an electric vehicle. Just go out and buy an EV. It's great. Buy your electric vehicles. I have something to say on hybrids, too, here in just a second. She also sent the letter to BP America, Chevron, Marathon, and Shell. If that is not the case, the administration will need to consider additional federal requirements. That's good. Let's just nationalize these industries there, Jennifer Granholm, and see how that works. Venezuela will show you the way. Emergency actions can be avoided if the industry prioritizes building inventories during this critical window. The Biden administration is effectively asking refiners to prioritize American consumers over maximizing profits by supplying fuel-starved Europe, which is facing unprecedented energy crunch after the invasion of Ukraine triggered U.S. sanctions. While U.S. retail prices have eased after hitting a record high above $5 a gallon in June, the White House remains under pressure to tackle inflation ahead of the midterms. A few months ago, Sniffy Joe urged exporters to make up the energy shortfall in Europe caused by Russia's political games and Europe's green energy insanity. I would say it's caused by Europe's green energy insanity and the expansion of NATO. This is back in March of 2022. The White House announced this morning that the U.S. will rapidly increase exports of liquefied natural gas to Europe as Germany and other EU nations try to diminish their dependence on Russia. The move will ramp up LNG shipments carried by seagoing tankers, which are all run by fossil fuels. Not by fossil fuels, by solar and wind, by the way. The tankers, all run by solar and wind energy, by 15 billion cubic meters this year. As comparison, the U.S. sent 22 billion cubic meters of liquefied natural gas to Europe last year, the highest ever between the two continents. The announcement promises to raise concerns about the trajectory of global climate action. Oh boy, the construction of LNG terminals and other infrastructure could put the U.S. and other nations on a path forward toward using gas for years to come, even though those countries strive to eliminate fossil fuels. Arguably, exporters are only doing what the Sniffy Joe told them to do, fascism. But now Biden is complaining that they have followed his instructions. If only politicians and protesters hadn't tried so hard to block pipelines up through New York, into Massachusetts and Maine, they might be able to get natural gas shipped there via pipelines from Marcellus Shale. But no, can't have that because natural gas is bad, pipelines bad. Then the Northeast could have supported Ukraine and maintained sufficient inventory for their needs. As the Northeast states have at least Northeast states have enough solar panels to make up the energy shortfall, though, right? Oh boy. Point being is this is my concern right here. Let me show you something else here too, because this is one sec. I gotta come back to this because I tell you, man, and I worry that I am being a Greta Thunberg on behalf of like, oh my goodness, we're all gonna die from not have enough heat. I don't know. I don't want to be that person either, but the reality is such that it does concern me greatly. And then we see in Zero Hedge, beyond imagination, Polish homeowners line up for days to buy coal ahead of winter. This is good times. Look at that, dudes. Look at that. Google searches for firewood in Germany have exploded over the last couple of months as the country braces for natural gas shortages. This is crazy. Deutsche Bank predicted a growing number of German households will be using firewood for heating, a forecast which appears to be self-fulfilling. I don't, just because of Google searches in of itself, that doesn't mean that much. I mean, it's interesting, but people searching firewood is kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. That doesn't bother me so much. But anyway, while Germans are still searching merely in the virtual realm, exactly, for countless Poles, the search is all too real. Reuters says that Poland is still basking in the late summer heat. Hundreds of cars and trucks have already lined up at some place at the coal mine as householders fear of winter shortages. And they wait for days and nights to stock up on heating fuel ahead of the coming cold winter in queues reminiscent of the commie times. Arthur, who's 57, a retiree, drove up from someplace 18 miles from the mine in eastern Poland, hoping to buy several tons of coal for himself and his family. Toilets were put up today, but there's no running water. This is beyond imagination. People are sleeping in their cars. I remember the commie times, but it didn't cross my mind that we'd return to that. Look at this. In Poland, where coal is king, dozens are lining up waiting for heating fuel. Yeah, man, that's crazy. And the hits just keep coming. So, we all blame and laugh at Europe, as we should, rightly so, because the EU is a fallen experiment. It should be obviously overthrown in 2 seconds. The EU's evil. It's evil. It should be completely scrapped and sent to the ash bin of history, a la the commie regimes. And NATO too, by the way. Both of those things should be shut down. We should not be providing anything in Europe at all. Europe, they're big boys now. They don't have to worry about Hitler. They're big boys. They can manage on. They can pull up their big boy pants and get along just fine without the U.S. Anyway, point being is, at the end of the day, this is not good. And if you think it's just over there, well, just remember one of the reasons why we can't have natural gas flowing into New England is because of Cuomo shutting down pipelines going through New York. And then remember, they banned, hell, in New York City, there's lots of places you can't even put a house with natural gas hookup. It's crazy. And they're going to blame the industry for this. This is what fascists and commies do, whoever it is. Like, oh, it's not running. The train isn't running on time. All right, well, we're going to off of the head of the what do they call them? The traitor to the cause, the traitor to the state will bring on, one of my underlings to do it. And he'll be like, you can see a smile away. But at the end of the day, America is different because we are exceptional, 100%. And, basically we do have the right to vote, whether or not it's counted. I don't know. And I don't think the vote for president matters all that much, frankly. I mean, it does. I'm going to vote for Trump. I don't think it matters as much as your local politicians, because remember, it's local politicians who banned fracking in New York and other states. You know what I'm saying? Banned it. They said no fracking, even though they're on the Marcellus Shale. They banned pipelines, and that affects people in New England too. By the way, it's not just affecting people in New York, because the pipelines have to get to New England via Pennsylvania. How they do that? You know, I mean, you can't just go through Canada. And so, the point being is, what's happening now is Massachusetts. They're not getting natural gas from the United States. They're actually importing it from either Philippines or Singapore or something like that. It's insane, man. On ships that are run on fossil fuels or nuclear. I'm sure it's diesel. It's insane. It's incredible. It's actually going to be somewhat fun to watch from the south, because it's going to get cold, dude. If it gets cold, and we're going to see the nightmare of green energy coming to a quick fall. This guy emailed me, I forgot his name, but he emailed me today about this thing, and I don't know it to be so true, but a $29,000 battery needed to be changed for a Chevy Volt. Apparently, this is, some guy tried to debunk this, but he said, yeah, even though you don't, someplace in Ocala, Florida, Ocala, something like that. I can't remember the name of the company, but anyway, to replace the battery, it's only 70,000 miles on the Chevy Volt, was $29,000. And the guy who was trying to debunk it, he said, well, I was able to find, they're hard to find, but if you look for them, I was able to find some Chevy Volt batteries between $5,000 and $10,000. Now that doesn't include labor and all that stuff. That it's an older refab battery as well. I'm like, you got 70,000 miles on your car, and you're already looking at a $10,000 replacement battery, and that's if you shop around and you got to find somebody to do it, and that doesn't include the labor. Let's just say it's $15,000, man. There's your I think it was a hybrid. Bolt's a hybrid. Anyone Chevy is electric. Either way, you got to have a battery. And I was like, this is freaking nuts. No, it's not, Denise. Not screening yet. Nope. Remember that Target TV ad demographic is, 100%. Well, we all know that's 100%. Is that the target groups are what Rush Limbaugh used to say, 25 to 54, something like that. That's a target group. Because the old people don't spend, which is why on the old TVs, for the old people, it's all pharmaceutical stuff. You know what I'm saying? Diapers, pharmaceutical stuff. Ever wonder why mainstream media never criticizes pharmaceutical companies, or your local TV never criticizes the ambulance chasers? You ever watch your local TV news, like say 5:30 p.m.? It's all ambulance chasers. Weird, huh? It's all ambulance chasers and big pharma. There's no way the mainstream media is going to criticize these people. Check this out, by the way. This is by my man Morris Beal. The drug story, the racket in cancer control, the credit for introducing disease exploitation as a means of tapping an endless flow of dollars from an unsuspecting public goes to Harry L. Hopkins. First tried on the public on an extensive scale by the New York what the hell is that word? You know what I'm talking about, TB. Tuberculosis. First tried on the public on an extensive scale by the New York Tuberculosis and Health Association, of which Hopkins was the guiding genius and director. It proved an instant and lucrative success for its originators. And he goes on to talk about Morris Beal, about the American Medical Association, American Cancer Society. Is bad, dude. All right, so then right quick, I can read you this. This is from the House of Rockefeller. And the reason I wanted to read you this a little bit, right here, because check this out. I was stunned to see this, actually. I was stunned to see it prominently shown. This is crazy. How dare you not believe things we tell you to believe, Josh? How dare you? Postal Service is chasing freight brokers as the agency scrambles to slash costs. All right, let me see if I can't find this right here. Right here, NASA to launch most powerful rocket on the moon, to the moon and beyond. Rockefeller Foundation wants behavioral scientists to come up with more convincing COVID narratives. And yet another sign that the COVID agenda of globalist institutions did not go as well as they had originally hoped, the Rockefeller Foundation has revealed that it, along with other ding, 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 non-flippant profits, tax these scumbags, man. Tax it and shore up Social Security. It's such a winning proposition. Tax them and shore up Social Security. Why is a nonprofit getting involved in this crap? The Rockefeller Foundation has been pumping millions of dollars into a behavioral science project meant to figure out why large groups of people are not getting a jab. And here we go. From the Rockefeller Foundation and the Social Science Research Council. Following the characterization of inaccurate health information by the U.S. Surgeon General as an urgent threat and by the World Health Organization as an infodemic, the SSRC, Social Science Research Council, issued a call for proposals to counter the growing global threats posed by public health misinformation and low COVID-19 vax rates, and received nearly 200 submissions from the world. With COVID-19 prevalent and rapidly evolving everywhere, there's a pressing need to identify interventions with potential to increase a vax take-up. Why would the Rockefeller Foundation care that much whether you're jabbed? Oh, we'll go back here to the House of Rockefeller. It has long been demonstrated, this was written in 1954 or something like that. It has long been demonstrated that the Rockefeller interests have created, built up, and developed the most far-reaching industrial empire ever conceived by the mind of man, not the least of its holdings in the drug business. The Rockefellers own the largest drug manufacturing combine in the world and use all their interest to bring pressure to continue and increase the sale of drugs. The fact that most of the 12,000 separate drug items on the market are harmful is of no concern to the drug trust. It is therefore nothing to ponder about the House, the Rockefellers, that it had its own nominees planted at the FDA, at the U.S. Public Health Service, the Army Medical Corps, Navy, Air Force, Surgeon General, the VA. Good times. Medical, we're talking about that. For this reason, only drug therapy is used in any government agency. Only drug therapy, i.e., take a drug. The fact that millions of persons use naturopaths, chiropractors, and osteopaths as their family physician is not considered when a boy is drafted and sent into the armed forces. When a boy is drafted and sent into the armed forces, he must take the drugs. Never again should there be a draft. Never. Patients of drugless doctors don't buy drugs. Neither do well people. So if you're not sick and you're a patient of a doctor who doesn't prescribe drugs, you're not a consumer. We got to change that, as we just saw in the Rockefeller thing that I just read to you. We have not gone to drugless practitioners for scientific information on the harmfulness of most of the 12,000 drug items, which in the new drug traffic that House of Rockefeller and his colleagues have for sale, and is plugging with might and main through all of its high-powered and well-financed publicity avenues. Let's go into the ranks of the outspoken medical practitioners. The American Dispensatory lists over 12,000 items of drugs on the market. I am told by medical practitioners that to teach a student these 12,000 drugs, they select about 100 of them. So basically 99.4% they don't get taught. But it does swell the profits of Big Pharma. Let us quote by an authority on this subject, Dr. David Edsall, who was one time dean of the Harvard Medical School. Oh, dean of the Harvard Medical School. You don't question Harvard, do you? The good doctor, quote, I was for a period a professor of therapeutics and pharmacology. And I know from experience that students were obliged by me and others to learn about an interminable number of drugs, many which were valueless, many of them useless, and some probably harmful. All because they were still discussed in some textbooks, had never been discarded, and were sometimes asked about it by the State Board of Medical Examiners. Another former professor of something at the University of Michigan is recognized as one of the world's leading authorities on pharmacology. His textbook, Pharmacology and Therapeutics, is recognized as the leading work of its time. He said, the more advanced teachers of medicine have been properly abbreviating their list of remedies, but the students on going into practice meets numbers of drugs previously unknown to him and not appreciating that these have already been tried and discarded by his teachers. There is still a tendency, though, even among the educated, to ascribe therapeutic virtues to every new weed and every new product of the chemical industry. As long as the medical student has to learn the supposed virtues of a host of obscure substances, he will tend to use them in his practice. This, in turn, necessitates their inclusion in the pharmaceutical regime, which again perpetuates them as subjects of teaching. There are a few outspoken medical doctors who will tell you point blank that under this drug test aegis, doctors are turned out of these subsidized medical schools like machines. And who pays the subsidies? The Rockefeller Foundation. From his earliest student days, the doctor is not allowed to use his mind or think for himself. He is made to follow well-formed groups. He is not given the time to discover whether the medicines or drugs he is taught to prescribe are of any benefit. He is told that A says that this should be done in X illness, that B says such and such a chemical combination has beneficial effects when the patient is suffering from Y. Again, let us quote from the Harvard medical guy. Almost all subjects must be taken at exactly the same time and most exactly the same way by all students, and the amount introduced into each course is such that few students have time or energy to explore any subject in a spirit of independent interest. There is little intellectual freedom in the medical course than in almost any other form of professional education in this country. It takes courage for a medical doctor to come out and say such things. The drug trust has a American Medical Association so well organized, and until the last few years, it had such a dynamic spokesman in Morris Fishbein that a whispering campaign of amazing intensity is immediately started against a doctor who goes his own way. If he is a young man, his practice will be ruined. He can be kicked out of his county medical society on trumped-up charges, and the resulting publicity can make him look like a incompetent practitioner. Sound like anything lately? Anything at all? I don't know. Some of the most brightest minds in medical practice. Dr. Jensen, Dr. Atlas, many others. Never mind the theoretical ones over at Jay Bhattacharya over at Stanford, Ioannidis, the guy at Johns Hopkins. We had Santa Clara University, a number of people. Hell, even a freaking, can't believe I'm drawing a blank his name. Martin Kulldorff. All these guys. They're my Dr. Malone. All these guys. They're my Pierre Corey. All these guys just kicked to the side as if they were insane. It's an ugly industry, man. It's an ugly industry. It's not good. It's not like, again, well people don't buy drugs. You want big pharma out of your life? You get healthy, man. You get healthy. You really think big pharma cares two freaking craps about you? You think they give a crap about you? Hell no. Hell no, man. There is no way these guys do. And we're paying these doctors, dude. I'm not a doctor, but I've heard enough that I know there's evidence to this. Anecdotal, maybe it be, that they get paid more to prescribe things. Some evil crap. So we got the energy crisis happening. We got a healthcare crisis happening because we have obesity running rampant. We got just crap being put into our bodies. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, the point being is there's nothing you can do about any of this other than try your best to get out from underneath it all, to remove yourself from having to be part of that stuff. And you can never remove yourself out, right? Like, I don't want the FBI disbanded. Let's put that. The FBI has lots of scumbags in there and all that. I don't want to disband it because someone else probably worse is going to come in this state instead. I want the leadership completely disbanded. Absolutely, have some other guys in there. But look, but there's nothing I can do. I'm not going to sit there and say they're going to get us. They're going to throw us in jail. I mean, why? Why would you just come on? Come on. They're going to try to make Trump a sacrificial lamb. That's what's happening. But there's nothing you can do about it. The only thing you can do is protect your bottom line. How you protect your bottom line is to make sure you can't go bankrupt and have to go back into this system where they tell you what to do. And the best way to do that is to freaking have no debt. I don't know. I mean, look, I got a debt. I've got debt. I'm a hypocrite. I'm hoping 2 to 3 years I won't. And I'm hoping I still have some money left in my portfolio. Then 2 to 3 years, not only will I have no debt, I'll have some portfolio which I can draw on as well. That's my hope. Hopefully by then it'll be worth more than this now. And if I draw off it, I'll have to pay a 10% penalty because I'll be in Roth IRA. I'll be okay with that. It'll be tax free because I already paid the tax on it. Again, obviously, it won't be tax free if I have any gains, but still, man, no debt. Have access to my portfolio, sans a little bit of income tax and sans a 10% penalty, and then I have my other accounts over here, hopefully, building up. Dude, you can get by on cheap, man. But I'm telling you, if you're relying on the portfolio to pull you out of this while you're carrying all this debt, I just think you're making a huge mistake. Huge mistake. And you don't have time to fix the mistakes, man. If you're freaking about to retire, you don't have time to fix it. You got to say, I tell you, a 50% decline requires a 100% increase to get back to where you were. 100% increases don't happen overnight, my friends, especially if you're pulling money out of there to put food on the table. Have you taken any preps, anybody here yet? Maybe go buy a couple more 20-gallon Blue Rhinos, something like that. That's what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to go buy a couple more. Anytime, think about it. How are you going to just the price of electricity goes up to, freaking 40 cents a kilowatt hour. How much is it going to cost to cook in the wintertime in your stove? It's going to cost a lot of money. You know what's going to be a whole lot cheaper is going out there on your grill and using using propane. You see what I'm saying? Now, that's a range I'm talking. If you have natural gas on your stove, who knows what the price of natural gas will be? I don't know. Presumably a whole lot less than electricity, but I don't know that to be true. I'm just saying there's got to be alternatives when the winter time comes and the freaking price of electricity. If it's, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. It's just the way I am being from an island off the coast of Maine. Can't help but be a prepper. Like, what if you got ways you can get freaking fresh water? You have a filter, Berkey, I have a Clearly filtered. You have this stuff, ways to get fresh water, shelter, food, water. How do you have this? Obviously need heat too. Well, heat, at least here in the South, it gets cold, but, if the natural gas goes out, the electricity goes out, we do have these, my buddies, I got all that stuff stored for the summertime. I got busted out, but there's some things you can heat your home with devices, kerosene and stuff like that, which is a good idea to do. And you probably want to buy that before people are waiting in line for 2 days, like in Poland buying coal. You know what I'm saying? And these things don't emit carbon monoxide and all that. Don't do your own research before you just buy stuff online. But I think it's called My Buddy, Mr. Buddy, something like that. But they got these little things of kerosene that you can heat, heat a room, a 10 by 10 room. That's if things go south. And if they don't, all right, well, then you wasted money on preps that you don't need. Well, you don't need now. I just went up to Costco today, loaded up again on some ground beef, $3.99 a pound. Vacuum sealed it, put it in my freezer. You know what I'm saying? But if the electricity goes out, well, that's why I have batteries. That's why I have inverters. That's why I have inverter generators. But basically, just need some batteries, some gasoline in your car. You know what I'm saying? And you can run it's a couple solar panels, which I have as well. It's always a good investment just to keep your stuff cold. Give the winter time, you're probably not going to need that, but still, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, all right, so let's see what we got here, man. I'm going to see what. So again, if you all have. No, Joshua, volatility market. Hell, that's. I'm not predicting it. I have many people have said, should I invest now or wait? I'm like, look, if you're sitting on a bunch of cash, I'd wait. You know what I'm saying? You can dollar cost average in, but if you're like, I've had a number of people just retired and they're like, because I'm still optimistic. I know I'm talking doom and gloom. I'm optimistic. You can still be optimistic in your own life. I guess that's what I want to say. For my life, I'm freaking totes optimistic. I got a beautiful, gorgeous wife who kicks ass. She supposedly loves me. I don't know why, but she does. You know what I'm saying? I have a brain on my shoulders that says, yeah, I don't trust this narratives of all these clowns. You see what I'm saying? I got kids I love to death. I got two little puppies, really puppies, and I'm working on paying down my mortgage. I don't need much. How can you not be optimistic? I don't think they're going to shut down the grid. I just think it's going to be expensive. I really do. Because I don't think, because, when you start losing electricity, we're going to Sri Lanka, my friends. I'm just telling you right now. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think it's going to be expensive. And there's going to be more and more subsidies and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm working on having any debt. You know what I'm saying? I'm 52 years old. Freaking, I got a good gig doing this stuff. For some reason, 173 people on here right now saying, hey, I want to hear what Josh has to say. It's crazy to me. Why wouldn't want to hear me, man? It's nuts. Freaking love it, man. You know what I'm saying? My kids love me. At least they say they do. But, I'm freaking kicking ass and taking names. Chloe's coming home next week. Maddie will be here next week. Maddie's boyfriend's parents are coming over next week, so we can meet them for the first time. I don't think they're going to like my conspiracy theories, but that's all right. We'll talk about if pandas are real. Did you see the thing in the Rolling Stone magazine? The new conspiracy theory: are pandas real? I kind of chuckled at that. That's a conspiracy theory I don't really follow. That's for sure. But anyways, so all this over here doesn't really. I mean, I'm not gonna say it doesn't affect me. It certainly does, but there's nothing I can do about it. Oh, by the way, God sent His only Son to die for me. The Holy Spirit has talked to me at one point in my life, and God, the Creator of all things, the majesty of God's creation. Just look outside. It's amazing to me. Just a butterfly, just a tree. Oh, I was sitting there outside yesterday with my boy, my third, Calvin. We're talking about gardening and stuff. He goes, yeah, I kind of like that gardening stuff. It's pretty cool. I can grow plants and they can grow again the next year. You can eat them. And one of my fig trees is starting to harvest. I said, man, he goes, you care if I go get some figs off the tree? I said, hell, freaking be my guest, dude. You know what I'm saying? It's awesome. So we're talking about gardening. We're talking about agriculture, regenerative gardening as opposed to just I use chemical fertilizers. I do follow the Mittleider gardening method, but still, at the end of the day, you want your soil. You want to use compost when you can, all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, he's interested in it. You know what I'm saying? Chloe's over at UJ. She just joined the philosophy club. She loves philosophy. It's freaking fantastic. It's awesome. Liam and I are watching some Patriots Raiders game today. You know what I'm saying? Maddie, she's not here, but she emailed me the other day when I was something happened about the moon landing. She goes, yeah, someone's talking about the moon landing. I started saying, that's not how it happened. I said, see, yes. I said, yes, all right, Maddie. You're starting to get it because Maddie hates when I talk about the Mandela effect or the moon landing. But slowly but surely, she goes, yeah, that's not how it happened. I thought it was kind of funny, actually. I forgot what the circumstance was. She said, no, that's not true. Anyway, like someone was saying the other day, it's like, why? They said the leadership is why we don't have another person on the moon. I said, what, the leadership? Yeah, because JFK was so keen on it. I said, no other president has been. Look at all the presidents, man. They all talk about it. And the funny thing is the leadership that came with the moon landing actually came from James Webb. He was a NASA guy back then under JFK. But wait a second, James Webb, he quit NASA like a year before we put men on the moon after 3 astronauts got killed on the tarmac. He left. One of the chief astronauts left at the same time, and his right-hand man all left at the same time. So JFK gets assassinated. JFK was the biggest proponent of the moon landing. The reason he was because James Webb was basically telling, yeah, we can do it. We killed 3. Then JFK gets killed. 3 astronauts men die on the tarmac. They said, it's not even funny. It's funny in a gruesome way. The astronaut, I forgot his name off the top of my head, tried to contact back to Houston right there. Literally, they're on the tarmac thing. They're trying to call back to Houston. He says, "How can we talk from the moon if we can't even talk with a building between us?" The last thing he said, and they burned to death alive. Literally, this is in 1968. I think it was in 1968. These men burned alive. The last thing that guy said was he's trying to talk to headquarters, Houston, this is whatever. They could not communicate. He said, "How the hell can we talk from the moon if we can't even talk with a building between us?" James Webb leaves. His right hand man leaves. One of the other chief astronauts to his left leaves. And yet, 2 years, 18 months later, we're on the moon. All right, that makes sense. Anyway, so the point being is when I was talking to Matt, so we got all my kids are eager to learn things, man. It's fun. Now that doesn't mean they agree with me on everything. It just means they like to learn. Freaking life is good, dudes. If you let the stock market dictate your mood, that's nuts, man. It's nuts. If you let Dr. Fauci dictate your mood, that's nuts. Why would you give that guy control? Don't let Biden dictate your mood. But part two of this, I was thinking about this the other day, or maybe even today. I was like, isn't it weird? All the conservatism ever gets enacted is when there's a Democrat in presidency. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Balanced budget when the Democrat was in office. Pro-life. Now, obviously, we got that because Trump put those guys on the Supreme Court. But still, that happened when when Biden was in office. The Republicans got guts when Biden is in office. It's weird how. It's the only time. Then we got school choice running rampant through Arizona and other states. We got crazy, awesome pro-life legislation. All these states. The only time conservatism ever advances is when Democrats are running the show, the presidency. Isn't that nuts? It's crazy to me. I actually guarantee, if Obama was in office or Hillary, we would not have had the lockdowns. We would not have had this. I guarantee the Republican governors would have not capitulated. They would have said, no, we're not doing it. I guarantee. I mean, Larry Hogan and idiot up in Massachusetts, Baker, they would have, but everybody else said, no, we're not doing this. Guarantee. Now, that meant because Trump pressured him. I don't know. But I mean, just it's funny how when you're the party out of power, all of a sudden you grow in terms of what you need to get done in terms of 50 different unique state test tubes that are out there. It's great. So all these states say, yeah, we're not going to let you do abortions and we're going to let everyone go to any school they want. That never would have happened with Trump in office, most likely. This is pretty cool. Anyway, so just as an FYI. So Biden sucks. We all know that. Absolutely. Horrible president. His whole administration is horrible. They're evil and they're scumbags. But they're all there to get rich. If you think Mitch McConnell is that much different, you're crazy. If you think Lindsey Graham is that much different, you're crazy. Nikki Haley, oh my goodness, don't even get me started on her. Tim Scott, nope, not on those clowns. Don't even get me started. Point being is at the end of the day, yeah, Sniffy Joe sucks, but your life still is pretty good if you just choose it to look at it as such. And here goes Pablo. All right. Let's see if you see any other. Can you answer the question from your stream title? Yeah, I think I've been talking about it. I'm retiring this December 59. I owe 35,000 on my mortgage. I have a good pension. Should I use a 401k or money from a VUL I've had for 20? Yeah, don't use it from the VUL. Yeah, I can't tell you what to do there, brother. But you're fit. Yeah, I mean, if this were me, I'd just pull it from the 401k, pay tax, and be done with it. That's what I do. 100%. But oh my goodness, the spreadsheet says I don't care. I don't care about spreadsheets. Can't tell you what to do. Don't take it from your VUL. The VUL, if you pull it from the VUL, it has a good opportunity to make that policy expire before you do, which is bad. So let your VLL run, but I'd certainly take it from the 401k and pay it off. That's what I would do. Obviously, you have to pay tax on that. Oh well. We know that. Who was a banker? I guess I missed that. Oh, right. Ooh, look at my man. Yeah. Oh, is that what he's talking about now? Oh, man. Oh boy, Tom says the dog loves his retirement. Countless hours at the dog. That's fantastic, man. Most of his articles for the very wealthy. Is it the fear mongering narrative? So I guess Marie, I think actually, or I forgot who asked Mitzi, Marie. Somebody said, "What should you do to protect?" Well, I think the first thing you got to do is have no debt paid off. Yeah, and we've talked about this. No debt. That's what I would do. That's how you protect it. How do you do that? You got to figure that out for whoever is out there yourself. But like my man who just the Minnesota guy, he just said, "Should I take 35,000 out of his head? He's got a nice 401k and pay off his mortgage." I would absolutely. Absolutely. Pay the tax, be done. 100%. I would. And then you got no mortgage payment. And that way, all that money that you were paying towards the mortgage, you can put right back in a VTI in a brokerage account. Works like a charm, man. No, I completely agree. Oh, the Greyhounds. Oh, man. Look at those guys. Look at those legs on those things. Yeah, it's funny how they got those big chests. That's like Finney. He's not quite as long legged, but he's got big, long legs and a big old chest. It's funny, man. Ball because he got too depressed. Man, really? Damn. He's that bad, huh? Jeez. That's funny. Time distance shielding. I don't know what WRT stands for. Yeah, I agree. I don't. There's lots of different timescapes of various things, if that makes sense. In fact, I was listening to somebody said, I forgot what the calendar was, the Hebrew calendar or something. I forgot what it was, like 28. I forgot. I'm going to butcher it. So I'm not gonna, it was very interesting. Oh my goodness. No, they did not go through they didn't go through the Van Allen belt now. Okay. You can literally see the astronauts' footprints and equipment on the moon, says this guy. Whoa! Holy crap, you can actually see it on the moon? You can actually see it? Wow! We can see it, people. It's on TV. It's a picture. You can see it. It must be true. The same NASA who lost the initial, the most. The biggest event in the history of mankind, NASA lost the tapes for. They re-recorded on those tapes. We're not just talking one cassette tape, 900 or something like that sets of tapes they lost. They lost them. They had to save space. The specs for the lunar module, I think it was McDonald. I can't remember who did it. They got rid of that because they're not a museum. The original lunar module, what Neil Armstrong was driving around with his golf clubs. This is freaking insane. They lost the tapes, the original tapes for Neil Armstrong setting. The whole thing's the same. There's so much stuff in this. It's just, but we can see it because we have pictures. Oh my goodness. Yeah, 100%, Vern. They need a distraction. I could not agree more. Yep. Yep. And they say, but why did Russia go along? Because Russia said, first of all, they probably bought the same stuff they did, but they knew, they said, because there was going to be this joint meeting with Russia and the US. And when they told them their plans for the United States, Russia said, no, by all means, go there, guys. We're not participating. We're not participating. Because Russia said, we don't think you can do it. Oh, that's right here. Man, that's fantastic. Right. Look at my man S Mac. We paid our house off the CARES Act withdrawal. That was, dude, I was saying that. You should look at my videos back then. I was saying the CARES Act stuff. I tell you, man, I was talking about that a couple years ago. If people watch my videos, man, there's some profitable stuff you can get in this thing. I'm telling you, dudes. There's some profitable stuff. I was talking about the CARES Act doing just what this man did right there. Or I think I can't remember exactly what it was. Maybe taking out, putting a brokerage account, I think, and paying over 3 years. This right here, this guy gets a star. Look at that. That's fantastic. You're the man. You're the man. I love it. He uses CARES Act, no penalty, and I can't remember exactly how it worked. I just forgot because it's been a couple of years. But I remember telling people, man, take the money out of your 401k and roll it over into a brokerage account while your income is low or whatever it was. I should have done it. Should have done it myself, but I just couldn't pull the trigger. Couldn't pull the. Look, I paid more tax in these last couple of years than I've ever made in my life. When you make when you haven't made much money, I shouldn't say I haven't made much money because I was making 200,000 for the last 5 years at yeah, about 200,000 for the last 5 years at USA and over 100,000 before, before that. But until I started working at USA, basically 2010 was when I started making six figures. I'd never made anywhere near six figures. Most I ever made was $60,000 in 2004 or five or something like that. That's it. I never made anywhere near what I was making at USA, six figures. Anyway, the point being is when you start getting higher tax brackets, you're like, dude, I can't. It's not scary in the least, but you're like, I don't want to add to the tax burden because I'm in the higher tax bracket, and I'm not sure I'll ever be there again. If that makes sense. And then you look up a couple years later, you're still in it. You're like, whoa, what? You're like, how did that happen? It's amazing. It's good, but you're just like, I don't expect this. It's not the imposter syndrome. It's more like, I, you know, I would do this, but I'm in such a high tax bracket that I don't want to even put myself into the highest tax bracket, so I won't. I'll just wait. And then you're like, a couple years later, you still are in those higher tax brackets. Like, damn, I should have, but you don't know. So anyway, it's like one of those things where you're not accustomed to making that kind of scratch, and suddenly you're making that kind of scratch. It's tough. It's tough to get used to. I know that sounds like, oh, it's tough, man, because you're like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, what? This gravy train could stop anytime, and it could, but it could stop anytime for any of us. It doesn't matter what kind of money you're making. Anytime you could get a stroke. I mean, Denise is still on here. She literally died, and then they brought her back to life. Anyway, right. Ooh, right there. Yikes. Ah, look at that. Germany will have a bunch of sauerkrauts if Putin cuts all their. Oh, that's fantastic. China, India, and Ukraine for counters. Burn more firewood. Winter pre-fuel oil costs are $5 a gallon. It's going to be hard winter with electric. Yeah, that's my concern too. Looking at Portland, Oregon, looking like 2035, all the electric cars because government believes it's God. Yeah, 100%. This is LNG on the moon, but let's go find out, Robert. Let's go up there and see. Why don't we send some people up there, man? But we gave moon rocks to the Finns or something like that. Turned out to be petrified wood, but okay. Neil Armstrong said this is a moon rock. Oops, petrified wood. Oops. That's what it was. Maddie, she said she read an article that said they found they went to, I think it's the North Pole, and they came back with a bunch of rocks that were exactly like what you'd find on the moon. And I just chuckled because some of the biggest proponents of the moon, never mind who founded NASA, the Nazis that have, never mind all that, but some of the biggest guys right before who were involved in the moon landing happened to take a trip to the North Pole. Oh man, nothing don't let you fuel it up, man. But Denise, the moonlight is colder. Isn't that crazy? Go outside one of these days and do an experiment, and just do the temperature under the moonlight, and then stand in shade. It's colder in the moonlight. Tell me that's not nuts. Tell me that's crazy. The moonlight is actually colder than in the shade, which is obviously different than the sun being colder in the shade because the sun's not. You know what I'm saying? You get hot in the sun, that's why you want the shade. Isn't that weird? The moonlight is colder. I thought that was crazy. Now the big guys say, you're not doing the experiment right." I just chuckle because these people who say this, they don't know that this. Let's put it this way: if you challenge the orthodox, people think you're inherently stupid. They say, "Oh, you don't read books, you're dumb, or you just listen to YouTubers and all that stuff." You're like, "All right, well, whatever." And then you find out you know a hell of a lot more than these guys do. It's funny. Is actually I just chuckle. All these guys like, "Oh, you're dumb. You're believing what's that guy Alex Jones?" I don't look. I could care less about Alex Jones. I don't never watch the guy. Never listen to him. I don't care. I just anyone's like anyone who's like about to have a freaking conniption fit. I get that's why I love Rush Limbaugh because he's so funny. He's a funny guy. He just he's funny, man. He was that's what made him so good. He was brutally funny because he was like going Tyson on you at the same time making you laugh. It was fantastic. And by the way, Mike Tyson's in a wheelchair. That's not good. I like Mike Tyson, man. But anyway, long story short, so they'll say, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking. You're an idiot." And then they'll have this thing, and you're like, "Oh, we can easily debunk that debunking." It's crazy, as if this hasn't been thought of. It's very interesting, actually. So if you go in the shade, moon shine, it'll be colder than if you're in the shade. And people say, "Oh, it's not the same." It is literally the same thing. Man. It's nuts. And you can. It's the funny thing is Google when you start looking at the videos of this, they'll always feed you the orthodox, always. So you come across like Professor Dave or whatever this guy's name was, not even a professor. All his stuff will always come up automatically. Again, I don't even know how I got on his thing, but it's just funny. So if you're like, is it true that it's colder in the moonshine than is in the shade? You're going to get a bunch of these people debunking it. You'll never get the other side. It's very interesting. It's all algorithmic, brainwashing. But if you take a couple minutes, you think about it, say, "Well, that's not really debunking it. That's just a point of view that hasn't debunked the fact that you can do it your experiment yourself, and you can easily debunk it. It's literally easy to debunk the debunkers, but just people don't want to think, and they just want to think their opposition is dumb. It's actually quite sad. I'm probably victim of myself. I try to say ignorant as opposed to dumb. Ignorant means you don't know. Sometimes though, people are willfully ignorant, or either they're willingly whatever is ignorant, they're lying, or they're lying. One of those two, or they're dumb. One of those three things that they can't put two and two together. That'd be dumb. Ignorant means they don't know, but or they're lying. Mischievous, if that makes sense. One of those three things. The the people who fall for the green energy stuff, I think most of them are ignorant. They just don't know. But they think they know. And that's what's problematic is that they're ignorant to the point that they're they're dumb because they don't want to know. They don't want to learn. They think that battery power, we're just it's only a matter of minutes for Elon Musk is going to feed us all this battery power and we don't need fossil fuels. And it's so I got to see if I can't find it. I had a great article on Elon Musk the other day. I'm not going to be able to find it. That was, shoot. Wish I had it. It was fantastic. Right here about Elon. I don't get why everyone's enthralled with this guy. It's weird to me. But Elon Musk's self-description is strikingly circular. His talent for building companies consists of a talent for building companies. This was written in 1999. The Ottawa Citizen. Elon Musk's self-description is strikingly circular. His talent for building companies consists of a talent for building companies in 1999. And I can't even read. I can't read. I got to, but I'd read it a little bit to you if I could. I just can't see what that says. All right, my friends. I'm not. Look, man. A couple thousand acres. I don't know. I just think this is an issue that's not that worrisome to me, frankly. Bill Gates, BlackRock. I mean, look, I can't stand BlackRock. Oh, who was it? Blackstone? Somebody's saying about Blackstone or something like that. Yeah, they're buying some farmland. Whoop de doo. You know what I'm saying? I don't find that to be all that problematic. It's not that much. And that's another thing too. I actually don't believe the population is what they've been saying. If you just fly over the United States, you see there's a boatload of farmland out there. In fact, even Kerry Myers, who's my professor of economics, who had written that book I was telling you about for many weeks, and I've read it a couple times. Days on the Family Farm. She even said back in the 2008 when she published it, something like that, that the family farm is still strong, man. There's still tons of family farms that are less than 100 acres, tons. It's not even. It's like this idea of corporations owning all the farmland. It's just not true. And maybe 10 years from ago, that maybe things have changed the last 10 years. I just don't think so. I think there's still a huge number of family farms out there. I'm just not that worried about it. I'm not worried about Bill Gates. I mean, look again. You have the WEF over here, and then you have you. You don't have to be under them. I mean, to some degree, you have to. I get you, but you can still be over here and just keep the dividing line separate, and just let Bill Gates be Bill Gates. You know what I'm saying? I mean, is Bill? I just these guys aren't going to live forever. There's always going to be another commie coming up behind them. I mean, all this stuff happens, but these guys aren't happy either. Have you seen Bill Gates? He's not a happy person, man. You think Elon Musk is happy? Bill Gates, Bezos, none of these guys are happy. That's the problem with being king. You're always worried that you're going to get freaking, you're going to be taken out. Yeah, I'd rather be poor on paper, frankly, than Bill Gates. And that's why I probably should do a video on that again, be poor on paper. Because they're not going to come after you if you're poor on paper. And how do you get your food supply? Well, that's where you want to find local people and all that. I'm not all that worried about we're going to all be eating bugs. I'm just not. I'm not even worried about we're all going to be driving EVs, electric vehicles. Because I think this could be so bad this winter that people would say, yeah, let's, unless we're going nuclear. Remember, Japan is restarting up their nuclear power plants, which is freaking fantastic. And they're building a couple more too. So good on Japan. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not that convinced that these guys, because think about, what was it, 2008 or something like that? New York City had 3 days with no electricity, I can't remember. Crime just went crazy. People were panicked. You know what I'm saying? You have that all over the country. There's no governing authority, man. That's going to be nuts. And the one thing that governing authorities don't want is they don't want nuts. They don't. They want to be governing. And governing means telling people what they'll do. You know what I'm saying? So maybe catching tomorrow I'll be worried about it. I'm just, as we sit here today, I was like, I look at these guys, they're just not happy. They're miserable. They sold, a lot of these guys have sold their soul. Oh, you guys got to read, watch this. Oh, this is crazy. If you like music, dudes, you guys got to follow this guy right here. This guy is crazy. Crazy awesome. The latest right here. So we're going to go to my man Mark Devlin. Let me just go to his books. Musical Truth, Volume 1, 2, and 3. Dude, this guy, Mark, is djmarkdevlin.com. I was just listening to him on Crow just the other day, and I listened to the first episode from today about Mark Devlin. Let's just go to his books. If you like music, to most people, the music industry represents a source of harmless fun. Beneath the glossy veneer, however, lies a devastating truth of who really controls these institutions and the deeply malevolent agendas for which they're being used. Musical Truth is the culmination of Mark Devlin's 5 years of research into the true nature of the industry and its objective, from dark occult rituals to mind control artists and all points in between. The book shows how these agendas fit into the much wider picture of what's really going on in the world, and crucially, how the power lies with us to bring it to an end. Anyway, I haven't read the book. I just ordered this for Kindle right now, but I was listening to his interview on that. I was like, damn, that's crazy. He's talking about like Johnny Rotten. You talk about Ian Mackay, whatever, from Minor Threat. I was like, holy crap. Ian Mackay, whatever, from Minor Threat. His grandma was a big proponent of Planned Parenthood. I can't remember if he said she was in cahoots with Margaret Sanger and all this. And of course, his dad there's just too much as a coincidence. And then Johnny Rotten, from Sex Pistols, like these guys are, then Bob Geldof, you remember that clown? These people didn't just wake up one day and start playing. They were put there and they volunteered to be put there. It's crazy. You're sitting there thinking that can't possibly be. This is not coincidence. And if you like, like who else we talk about? So this episode today, we're just talking about punk rock with the Sex Pistols. Oh, so then it was, hey, Finny, the Sex Pistols was Nevermind, the Bollocks, and then Nirvana, Nevermind. Remember? Isn't that crazy? Yeah, it might be a coincidence, but if you start piecing these things together, I'm drawing a blank with a big one. Well, there's a huge one in there for me. I was like, whoa, like that guy. I can't remember, but it was like, dude, that's crazy. Never mind. Jim Morrison's dad was the guy who was involved in the Gulf of Tonkin, was an admiral, and just all kinds of stuff, dude. And then who? Oh, then that we had Joe Walsh, all the members of Devo, the band, and Chrissy Hind were all at the Kent State shooting. Every single one of them. Isn't that weird? They're all literally there, huh? That's kind of odd. But there's another one too. Is a band, MC5, Motor City 5 out of Detroit. Two of those guys were this like freaking government facility in Kentucky that was kind of known for brain control and stuff. The whole thing's crazy. It's nuts. You're like, whoa, even if only half of this is correct, there's some weird crap going on, man. It's fun. And you're like, all right, that's pretty cool to know. I'm going to try to stay away from that, from the World Economic Forum as much as I can, because these guys are sinister. It's fun, man. All right, so I'm going to get ready to get out of here, my friends. Everybody's leaving. Oh, no. Batteries need certain minerals like, how dare you, Dan? How dare you? Batteries need certain minerals like lithium and others which are being collected by China. We will be energy dependent. Yeah. Apparently, we're already big pharma dependent too. My understanding is what 90% of pharmaceuticals are made in China or something like that. Yeah, medical establishment. Utica Shale. There we go. Yeah, dude. Look at my man Andrew. Utica Shale providing lots of natural gas on the 40 miles from new power station. How dare you, Andrew? You obviously have three eyes. Yeah, dude. 100%, Joe. You got a good car. Just change the moving parts, change the oil. You know what I'm saying? You're good. When the you talk about generic, like the generators that we're talking about. Yeah, totally, Josh. Exactly. That was David Rockefeller. If you accuse me of wanting a one world government, I am guilty. Yeah, it was David Rockefeller from his bio. Exactly. Yeah, 100%. All right, my friends, gonna get out of here. Appreciate y'all being here. Oh yeah, big farmer dude. Cook on coal. There you go. Remember, get your freaking your French press. Just heat up some water. You got your ground coffee beans in a French press. You heat up some water. You plug it in there, and you are good to go. No electricity needed. Just heat to boil some water. Now, obviously, you want to filter too. All right. I get out of here, my friends. Be advised. God bless each and every one of you. Just be grateful. Be humble. Say thanks to God. God's good always. And I tell you, man, one thing that I'm becoming more and more, I'm trying to have more gratitude, if that makes sense. And I'm trying to, man, I'm just trying to just say, God, I don't know what the plan is, but I'm here. I'm here for it. And he'll let us know what it is on his time. And it might never be. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But it's a belief. It's faith. And that's okay by me, man. Having faith in the one that created the entirety of all things. Oh, you want to be humble. Just think about that. You know what I'm saying? He created everything. And he knows the hair on your head, every grain of sand. It's amazing. All right. God bless. We'll see you guys.